Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building the village of Shorewood in Clearwater County. And if you tuned into the stream last weekend, it was a dumpster fire. It was an absolute disaster. I had issues with my computer, and as a result, it crashed, and that's how the stream ended. That said, we didn't accomplish nothing. So one of the things that we accomplished is that we replaced some of the trees. So there was a critique that I myself shared and felt that there were not enough pine trees mixed in, and as a result, all of the trees were deciduous, and there's a lack of greenery. So we added that in, and I began work placing a few fields, and we can see those somewhere. Up there's a couple, and then we went for a train ride, and then it crashed, and my computer overheated. It was a disaster. So I've got it resolved at this point, and now we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. So with that said, today we are going to do a couple of very interesting things. We're going to finish off the YMCA, build out a park here, and have a couple of mulligans over here. And then the main thing that we're going to do is we're going to add in a whole bunch of zoning. And one of the reasons for that is, if you look here, we have a great demand for residential zoning, and the city would be responding to this as quickly as it could. And we are going to as well. But where we're going to start out is adding a water pipe here, because we're missing one. There we go. The other thing that we accomplished on the stream is we figured out what was wrong with these parking lot assets. The big issue with these is that they're actually tied to this asset. So these parking stalls here, when we eliminated these, we actually eliminated the striping here as well. Those are related assets, and with Bob, when you go in, if you select this, so let's say we go in here, we select this asset, and then we remove this parking lot. So we just remove the probability, take it all the way down. We should do it on these buildings, not all buildings. So I believe that my problem is that I actually did this to all buildings. And as a result, we actually ended up losing this marking on the parking stalls over there. So we've got to be very careful with this. So that would be my caution to you if you go ahead and use this, is to be very careful. Now, interestingly, for whatever reason, it's not saving it. And that's probably why I made that change in the first place. So what we're going to do is just leave it. We'll enjoy this as it is, because we don't want to lose this asset. This asset's been very valuable. That said, one of the things I asked about in the previous episode was about soccer fields or football fields, if you're from Europe, and we are going to add some in. And we're also going to rethink about this a little bit more. One of the things that was recommended in the comments was having some sort of concession area and removing this particular baseball field that's a little bit too close to the road. Now, I understand that we don't have Hank Aaron back here, and he's probably not going to crack a home run into the highway, but you never know. So we're going to eliminate that, call a couple of mulligans. We're going to have to pay our eminent domain costs for all of these. So if you see the money going down, that's why. So we're going to lose all the parking for just a little while. We're going to bring it back. I want to give this a bit more thought. So it seems like we've lost a lot right now, and we have, but we're going to gain it back. We're going to gain something back anyway. So I grabbed some really interesting assets, and I want to add them in. So I grabbed a football field, and if you see this, basically it is this asset right here. It's really a striking asset. So it's just a small soccer field, and I want to work this into the build. So I'm not going to place it here. We're going to move it around and make it fit a bit better, but I do want this to be a part of the build. So this is significantly bigger than the football fields. We'll imagine that this is actually used in a more competitive fashion than these football fields, which are really practice fields and pee-wee football fields. But right here, this is also more competitive. That was the whole purpose of this. So this will serve the same purpose. I'm thinking I might slide this over just a bit, and we're going to do something to liven this up just a little bit. We're going to add a degree of separation, pull this over, and we're going to upgrade some of these roads too, because at this point, this is a complex that it means a lot to the city. They're not going to leave this, or to the village rather. They're not going to leave this as what it is. Rural roads with expensive facilities. That's just not going to happen in a million years. Now, where I will leave these rural roads is in between here, and there's a reason for that. One of the things that was mentioned in the comments that I also agreed with was that these kinds of facilities generally have walking paths in between and not driving paths, and that's true. But you can see right here, we've got a police issue, and that is something that is going to persist. And it will get even worse if there's no roadway access to it. So what we're going to do is ban vehicular traffic here, but allow the services to come through so that I guess this Ford Explorer won't be able to get through, but the police will. So I'm going to continue through and finish out these road upgrades. And we're losing a lot of stuff right now, so we're going to need to bring some stuff back. Not overly concerned about this because I have something there as well that I want to do. I do not love what it did here though, so we're going to need to think about that. Okay, so this particular roadway asset does not play nicely with these parking lots. The main reason for that is it has a tree lawn, and that's part of the right-of-way. That's totally fine, but I don't like the way it fits. So I'm going to try a couple of other things to see how these work. That's just not going to work either. So we might just go with some more traditional assets in this area. It's a little bit disappointing because I really do like the way that, the big suburban roads look. Particularly the sidewalks. I think they really knocked it out of the park with that. That said, it's fine. We'll do just fine with the vanilla asset. And maybe I'll upgrade this at some point, but for the time being, it's going to be just fine. Okay, so I made a couple of modifications here just to make sure that we're not touching with these roads. I believe it's close enough that you'll be able to make a pedestrian crossing there, and that's really all I care about. So we'll keep that there, and I'm just going to slide that back, provide some additional separation. So let's go into Traffic Manager and adjust the kinds of roads that are okay, or adjust the kinds of vehicles that are okay on these roads. So we're going to want to ban private vehicles, transit. If we hold down shift, that would have applied. Well, maybe not. And I inadvertently banned the emergency vehicles that we actually want here. So I'll bring those back. All right, so we've got that and we're good there. So the next thing I want to do is provide a bit of space for this area that we're going to have that will be dedicated specifically to basically some sort of concession area. So I think I'd like to have a road going behind it. Maybe it doesn't matter though. Why don't we just focus on the concessions first, and we will get to everything else later. So we're going to go into our Park Life DLC and add in some of these concession stands. And we've got a number of great little stands here. We can add some restrooms as well, and really make this a place that people can take advantage of and make it feel natural. So I think I might start out with the restrooms, as odd as that might sound. And for the restrooms, I really would prefer to have an outhouse. But I think that the only one that I'm going to find is not one that I want to use. So the one that I'm going to find is the one that is in the that comes to the nature reserves. And that is not going to fit the aesthetic and character of this area. So maybe we will just utilize the bathroom facility that comes with the city parks. It'll be fine. We'll keep that off to the side a bit. So we'll have to walk a little ways to get there, but that'll be just fine. And then from here, let's add some paths through here. So the unfortunate thing is that we do not have the ability to remove props without using this. So we'll take the lights off. It's just one of those things where I was hoping that I'd be able to go through and actually remove them without going through this menu. The problem is that I'm saving this and I don't want to forget about it in the future. This is a setting that will retain. So just something I need to be mindful of in the future. And for me, I'm going quite a ways in between building some of these things. So it's a bit concerning in my opinion, but we're going to deal with it. So by the time this is all said and done, we're not going to know that these are here. But for the time being, I want them so I can snap things right here. So let's go ahead and start placing some of those assets. And mostly what I'm concerned with, I just want to keep a straight line. And this is way too big. I'm going to have to take this down a bit. And I'm actually reconsidering a bit. We'll just have a small area with some concessions over here. And then I've grabbed this food cart. We'll add a couple of these as well. And the other place that we could look for these sorts of assets, and I'm not sure how well they'll fit, would be inside of here, but we don't have these unlocked. So I'm looking at the theme park assets. There are some food trucks in there as well. Right here, a little concession candy cart. You can work one of these in. Okay, so we've got our selection of assets. And basically what I'm going to do is just move these around a bit, make it feel a bit more organic. And then we will place a few park benches through here. And then we'll have our concrete, which is always our favorite asset. Now for this, I'm just going to go around the outside and try to make a clean line. And it's probably, unfortunately, I was hoping I could use, because this is a ploppable, I'm not able to use prop line tool. I always fall back to that thinking, oh, that'll be great. I'll just use prop line tool. Everything will be perfect. And I can't use it. So it's one of those things that it will get me forever. All right. So there we go. And I'll move the restrooms a bit closer to this. Steal one more of these. Move it back here. And then I'll paint a little bit more. And then I'm gonna add a fence back here, I think, just to show that this is an area that really is well maintained. I think now that we have this, we can move things back a bit more, spread things out just a little ways. And if we wanted to get really tricky with it, I'm not sure if I have any assets for this, but nope, no dumpster. I was gonna add a dumpster, maybe garbage. No, but we should add some trash cans. So we'll add a couple of those in. There we go. So I was hoping I could add a dumpster behind here, but I don't have one. That's okay. Because this is a bit empty back there. I think I'm going to add a bit of seating just to round it out. Okay, so it's kind of an interesting place to hang out now. So I'm going to add a bit more landscaping back here because we can now. And it'll make this place feel a little bit more secluded, which is always good. There we go. I like that a lot more. And at this point, I want to focus on, I'll add a bit of parking, maybe over here and along the side here. And this didn't go quite as far as I wanted, so I'm going to just move it back just a little ways. And now you kind of get the intent of what I'm going for. So again, just a little bit more landscaping to round this area out, make it feel a bit more complete. So there we go. To me, this feels a lot better now. There are a couple more small things that I wanted to do, such as add some trees right here, a degree of separation if there were games going on at the same time. You wouldn't have interference from the different activities going on. And then we will fence in this parking as well. Keep the ruffians out. Keep the neighbors happy. The neighbor being the highway, so I guess it doesn't really matter. And over here, I was going to build parking, but we have this lot right here, so I would assume that there would be some sort of shared parking agreement here. And in game days, they're totally fine with the football team, or the football practice happening, and this parking being utilized for that. Probably minimal conflicts throughout the year. There would be some, obviously, but that's not the end of the world. You don't want to plan something that's going to be around 365 days out of the year for 2 days out of the year. And that's something that is really challenging for people to wrap their heads around sometimes. One of the things you'll hear, you go to remove parking on a street, for instance, and you'll hear, what about my kid's graduation party? What about Thanksgiving? What about the football game? If we go to the Super Bowl? Well, we can't plan for those things, because the graduation party is 1 day out of the year. The birthday party is 1 day out of the year. If your Thanksgiving party is good enough, people will park out of the way. So we don't want to plan for that. And if your Thanksgiving party isn't good, then maybe the close parking won't matter either. I don't know. So we're missing some invisible pads at this point, and these are causing issues. So we're going to add these back in. And the reason these are causing issues is we have these invisible people generators. We've got a lot of weird stuff happening in here, and truthfully, I'm not sure that any of it's working. Oh, it is. Let's look at this lady. What is she doing? She's just standing there. Nancy Harvey, where are you going? You live at the Cooper residence, which is in Belmont. You live in Belmont, and you're visiting a children's Pee Wee football field. Okay. I guess, we all have our own things that we're into. And she's into standing in the field with no one there. So we will let her do that. All right, we're going to add in a few more things and then clean up a bit of landscaping. So here, because of what this is, I would assume that it's very well landscaped. I really don't like some of these trees that are showing up in here. So I'm going to try to replace them. So the trees that I'm not particularly fond of, let me see if I can highlight it. Interesting. Okay, now it's finally highlighting for me. It's not that one. It's not that one. It's actually those bright yellow trees. For some reason, I'm not seeing them. That's unfortunate. I'd really love to change that, but it's just not gonna let me. I'm wondering if it's showing up as a prop. No, it's just there, and there's nothing I can do about it. So that's unfortunate. It happens. It's really hit or miss with Bob using the asset replacer. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you just can't. So we'll have to deal. And I want to fill in this area back here because nothing's going to develop back there. But to get that natural look, we're going to actually just steal some trees over here. We'll copy that. Just paste them back here. Rotate a bit, paste again, rotate a bit, paste again. And there we go. Now let's take a look at how this looks and feels. That's the stuff right there. That feels good. This feels like a place that you'd be excited to go and visit. That's exactly what I was hoping for. I'd visit anyway. Maybe you wouldn't. I hope you would. To me, it feels like a nice place. And it feels like a sports complex that this whole city could be very proud of. I do want to take a look. We have our park area drawn around here. I know. It doesn't really matter, but it matters to me. So I'm just going to make sure, it's missing just a little bit. So we're going to pull that in and make it fit a bit better. There we go. It just feels a lot better to me. So there we go. And we're going to move on from this area and move over here. So this is Brown City Park. It has this Japanese YMCA, but a dear friend on the Discord server, actually just joined a month ago, but I'm very pleased. Sprite 101, one of the city councilors, has made an asset. Two actually for this build, and I'm really pleased to introduce them. Introduced a new YMCA. So we're going to use eminent domain, take out that Japanese YMCA, and we're going to put in one that feels a bit more North American. I say North American because what he created for us is some YMCA signage, and this is something I'm really excited about. I found buses on the store or on the Steam Workshop, but I didn't find any signs. And he actually made a Brown Family YMCA sign. So this is awesome. So we need a building, and that's going to be something that we, I had to look for a while to find the appropriate building. So I looked for office buildings, and I figured, maybe I could find something that was just right. But what I ended up finding that I really fell in love with was this. Never been here, but West Vancouver City Hall. So I think that this has kind of the shape of a YMCA and the general aesthetic of a YMCA. So I went to my YMCA, the one that's local to me, and I realized something. First of all, I'm a member. I should get there more often, I guess, but I don't. We became members because of the summer camp that they have, and didn't really think to why don't I just head over there and take a look. And when I thought about it, there is a loop, a drop-off loop, and then parking on the side. So we're going to add that loop here. And I had anarchy on, so I broke everything. So we're going to need to go back to the drawing board there. That's unfortunate. And we'll line that right up with this road. And now we're going to move our City Hall / YMCA right here. So this will be the drop-off loop. It's maybe a little bit too big, but I like the idea of lining it up. Well, no, it's too big. It's too big, and we are not going to do that. We're going to keep it rational, keep it real. So they're going to look to have this thing loop back around basically immediately. Construction space already occupied. Okay, well, I don't know why it was doing that, but we took care of it. So we've got this building. Look at that. Doesn't that just kind of have that YMCA general look? Again, I'd love to take a look at this with Bob and see if there's anything I can do with the landscaping, because these trees just kind of overwhelm the building. Makes sense. What we've put here, so it's replaced some of these. So if we revert this back, yeah, those smaller trees are a ton more appropriate. And then again, we've got this, is that a sugar maple? Well, it is. So that was the problem on the other asset as well. So I'm going to just leave these as the, default trees that came with this asset. We'll just live with it. Or I could replace it with this. Now we're going to leave it because we're going to have some changes to the build shortly anyway. So we can live with a little bit of wonkiness. So we've got this building here, and I want to add on to the parking lot. I think that there would be another tier back. Okay, and now that we have that, we can go ahead and grab our parking stalls. And I am just really struggling with the eyedropper tool tonight for whatever reason, so I'm going to avoid it. So let's go ahead. And the unfortunate thing is we actually probably need to remove our old parking. It's no longer right. Our accessible stalls are no longer accessible. So I could go through here and try to make sure that I'm using the selection tool absolutely perfectly and only have it select this asset. I am truthfully probably not as good at this as I should be. The other concern I have is that it's actually a couple of different assets. I'm just going to blast the whole thing away, and I'm happy to just put that back. There we go. So I want all of the accessible stalls to be in close proximity to the building. Okay, so we've got part of that done. And now Control X to release that. We will add the other side. There we go, we're good. So that is looking mighty fine. I'm pleased with that. We'll try to fix up some of this concrete work. It's gonna get ugly, and there is a way that we're gonna fix that. So I thought that since this is a city park, first of all, this road here, we're gonna call a mulligan on that road. Initially, the idea was that maybe we would do something more and have some development back here. But now that it's going to be a park, we're relinquishing that road in favor of some paths and some connections back here, and a few things to liven it up as a park. So the idea is this will act as a trailhead. Still not in love with this. This is going to drive me crazy. There we go. That's not perfect, but it's significantly better, and I can figure out something for that area. Anyway, neither here nor there. So we've got this going, and this is going to act as a trailhead. We're going to have a small path network back here, some pavilions. But the first thing I want to do is add in something that I think is really going to liven this area up. Some farmers markets. So often you will see places like the YMCA or just general parking at parks double as farmers market space on the weekends. So, you know, that's one of the things about City Skylines. We just never know what day it is. So we're going to say that it is farmers market day. So this asset is kind of a quick and dirty way of doing this. Clearly there are better ways. I could go and I could plop all these manually. That is just not really something I'm great at or interested in taking care of right now in that way. So what I'm going to do is just fib it a little bit. And I do want a really clean back line. So I'm going to go ahead and use one of these concrete barriers. I'll need to go through and actually clean that up a little bit right there, but that looks really good. So this is something that was really big during the pandemic. Interestingly, places like the YMCA and other sorts of fitness centers were looking to have outdoor activities like this. So a number of times I looked at things like that and had to make sure that they were compliant with fire codes and things of that nature, because the last thing you want is to have a tent outside that is dangerous. Interesting. What is that? Won't let me do it. Wonder if it'll let me paint it in. It will. All right, there we go. Don't love all the concrete, but sometimes you get concrete. And there's that dumpster that I wish I could have brought over to the other side. So now we have this going. Let's get some paths going. So here I'm going to go ahead right off the bat and use this path asset that I just said I modified. And truthfully, I'm kind of happy that it no longer has the lights, because I can add some myself. And there are other places in the community that I haven't added lights that I probably should have. So maybe it's for the best. It'll force me to be a little bit better about it. So we're going to pull these through just to make the connection in between. Get some pedestrian activity through here. It's so nice having movement. Now that's not a problem. I can just pull that through. You know, I put that line back here and maybe it didn't really matter. I could paint right up to this path and make it look a little bit better. It's probably what we're going to do for this. Nope, that looks terrible. So we'll landscape a bit and that'll be fine too. Invisible paths might be the solution here. So why don't we try that? Nope, that is also not the solution. Oh boy. We will just deal with a bit of wonkiness. I'll put some landscaping there. It'll be a planned feature. It's a planned. It's a feature, not a bug. Pull this over. I really wish that the concrete paths didn't do this, but they do. So we will just deal with it. But I think it's the right asset for the right location. So, you know, it's really tough. If I use the park paths through here, they're going to get really precise, more precise than I want for this park. It's not meant to be the sort of park that, you know, has that level of precision that is so well defined that you know, it's a park that has some straight lines, but not all straight lines. I guess I'll put it that way. Hopefully that makes sense. And it desperately wants me to go through that house, which I'm not going to do. I don't care what they try to get me to do. It's not going to happen. So I'll turn off my road guidelines and that should do the trick. I just really wanted to be able to make this connection in a way that was a bit nicer. And of course, because we have these suburban roads, it has a really ugly connection there. I'm going to probably forgive this one spot. And then through here, I want to meander these through and along the coast. Now we are not going to encroach upon this roadway right of way because this is going to become something. So we're actually going to extend that out just a scotch and make sure that it's there for the future. Okay, there we go. And then I just want, maybe one more path through here. All right, so this is going to be probably one of the more vanilla things that I've done in quite some time. I'm thinking that it would be nice to just have a playground or something of that nature in here. And truthfully, I I forgot that it's not going to, I need a main gate to be able to do that. So I'll have to add an invisible main gate. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is the spy gate, the main entryway over here. Add that here. I am going to change that. And I believe I have a better asset for that. Okay, and we have the gateless concrete main entrance. So we're going to add that right here. And then we'll use move it to position it appropriately. And then we will connect this up. And now I should have a bit more freedom within this area. But unfortunately, it wants me to get rid of everything first. All the work. Let's just get rid of it. And the reason for that is these distances are just too close. And I'm going to use anarchy and just say, no cities, it's not too close. It's perfect because it is. There we go. That is much better. That's weird. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I'm wondering if we have some sort of thing. I don't know what that is. That is strange. Well, yeah. We're gonna just leave that. So now I should be able to go through here and add in a large playground, which is what I wanted to do. And I want to make sure I have anarchy and prop anarchy off. There we go. And this park might look really good, truthfully, with gravel roads. But I'm wondering how creative we can get with Bob. Okay, so let's try something with Bob. So I want to see if I can replace the paths through here. So let's see. Benches and yeah, all of the little assets, but it's not showing me the path, which is unfortunate because that's what I really want to change. If I go through here, I can change the trees. It's mostly okay there. So I'm just kind of stuck with the paths being what they are. So that said, if that is the case, we can have a junction, but this is probably a better spot for it. It's almost making me think we'll just upgrade these. We will have some dirt paths around here. I'll eliminate that. The one that we need, I will accidentally eliminate that. And we'll have a mixture of assets through here. It's not the end of the world. So this would be nice too, because let's say they were having summer camps here. We'll clear a spot for them to have summer camps. If they were going to do that, they could have the kids go to the playground. I know that at the Y that I go to, they certainly do that. So we'll have that there. We don't want to end here. This isn't good enough. We want to add some more. So I picked up an asset that I really love. It's this picnic pavilion. And to me, this really fits the aesthetic really well of this area. And I want to place this parallel to this path with enough separation that we can add a bit of landscaping. And then for added detail, we have this little grill. I understand maybe this is going too far. And now you're gonna say, now he's done it. I've had enough. but I really, to me, that feels good. And then let's not go so intense. Let's calm down and just add a bit of gravel around this. And you kind of get what you get with these. Unfortunately, it works as it's going to work. And we have to accept some imperfection. Again, we're painting, and it gets a little wonky. Oh, and I am letting perfect be the enemy of good. And I'm just going to lose my mind. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm just going to step away from the park. And let's add a bit of landscaping over here. And not that kind. We want it to be a little bit cleaner than that. So just something to define the space. Again, let's mirror some of the landscaping that we already have. And I'm going to save these trees because I kind of like them. And apparently I just got rid of the tree. So instead of doing that, we'll just copy it. I think the elevation change is causing a few issues, and then I'll get rid of these ones that are inappropriately placed. We'll just add some more of these here. Again, that's that separation so that if you're at the YMCA, you don't want to be reminded that you just got off at the mill. Or maybe you do. Maybe you like it. I don't know. I've known some people who worked at a mill and absolutely loved it. My grandfather worked it was basically a sheet metal place, a sheet metal factory. And I used to stay up at night and wait for him. And he absolutely loved his job. Backbreaking work. But he made a lot of good friends, a lot of good people there. And, really kind of, when I think of, industrial Midwest, kind of salt of the earth, sort of people and jobs, that's what I think about. And it makes me feel, I guess I get nostalgic a bit about that. So, and I just want to line this. This is going to be the juxtaposition between the really well-defined area in the park and then things breaking down into the natural environment. And we're going to have some of that right here. Before we get to that, we are going to kind of maintain this symmetry that we've created in this area. Oh, and I'm going to delete instead because I'm not paying close enough attention. All right, so take two. Okay, so it's not perfect, but it's a good starting point, and that's what I was really looking for, was that good starting point. So I want to turn on my prop anarchy for this or that, and now I can place the mulch underneath it again. And this is not perfect, but it's going to be good enough for our purposes, and we are not going to let perfect be the enemy of good, but we are going to try to clean this up. It gets really tricky when you use the mulch, because you see that the first inclination is to select the mulch. The second is to get that little tiny asset underneath. And there's a part of me that wants to just go through and just redo this, but I'm going to try to fight that. Maybe I'll do it off camera just so I'm not driving everyone crazy as I get this, as I go absolutely nuts doing some of this stuff. But truthfully, this is part of the game that is fun, so I guess don't fault me for potentially doing it off camera. Let me know if you like that, if you prefer I do stuff like that on camera. I do very little off camera, but sometimes there are things like that. And now, again, that symmetry, we're going to bring the feeling of this over here. So at this point, I want to steal some trees again from another area close by and mirror the look. Let's grab these, just copy them. And that's probably a little bit bigger than we want it to be. So let's go back to the drawing board on that. Then here, we will add a little bit along the coast, and let's instead of doing trees, which are going to block all of the views, let's take a look at our smaller foliage and add in some grass clusters and things of that nature. So I'm going to find something that's going to work well, and I think this is going to be it. And then because we're going to have children right here, I'm going to also add a fence. Now, over here, it thought that I was building on water, and I am not. And I resent that the game believes that I am, but I can't help it. So I'm just gonna cheese the game a bit here and grab this, pull this over here, do the exact same thing on this side, and then we can bend this just a bit. There we go. I could also add a node there, but that'll do the trick. I can bend this just a little bit. And now you can see that we have our fence there. And to me, this has now become a significant community amenity. The Browns have done a great job, but it's missing its final finishing touch, and that is the signage. So first things first, it was backwards, so it was looking pretty crazy. So I'm just going to cover up a couple of the windows here, try to balance it and make it fit nicely in the center. And over here, we've got to rotate this just perfectly. We'll fit that right there. Look at that. That is a beautiful fit. We'll even add it over here to the side. There we go. That is just stunning. thank you again so much, Sprite 101. Sprite, excellent work. It's the perfect font that you'd see in the YMCA. The sign is perfect. I know I saw comments that said it's the Y, not the YMCA. It actually is both. It says the Y, and then on the side it says YMCA. And God, just nailed it. Just nailed it. And to anyone from West Vancouver, let me know how you like seeing this repurposed as a Y. It's just completely baffling. I'm sure that it feels strange. But I want to know, does it, when you go to the building itself, does it feel a bit like a YMCA? Or is that just appropriating the building in a way that's totally inappropriate? I want to know. So there we go. We're going to leave that there. I love this. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the build, truthfully. So we're going to just go with it as it is because I like it. Next, then the last part, the last thing we're going to take care of here, I want to do a bit more zoning. We've got this significant residential demand, significant commercial demand. We're not going to resolve it all, but we're going to get some of it moving, and we're going to do that by stroding up this road. So I know that is going to be something that people hate. It happens. I hate it, but it happens. And I think that this would be what happens here. Now, I'm going to let a little bit of a cat out of the bag. What the city is doing right now is not, or the village is doing right now, might not be the fate of the village forever. The Browns are always looking for their next opportunity, and you just never know what they're going to think of next. So I'll just leave it there for the time being, but I will say that this is not the end of the change you're going to see in this community. Communities are constantly evolving, constantly changing for the better and for the worse. And because of that, you should just never be surprised when the destiny of a place changes. So here we're going to do something that is ugly and overdone and very sad, in my opinion. But we're just going to have some auto-oriented development, just sprinkle it all along here. It's got the traffic volumes that these businesses look for, and as a result, it gets built. And we're taking some excellent land and just destroying it. It's really disappointing. I you might be able to tell even in the game, it kind of bugs me, but it is what you see. I was hoping that I'd be able to go ahead and actually see my building tiles. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Right now it's not, and that's okay. And of course, because I had all of my anarchies on, we're gonna have trees popping up through here, which is lovely. So let's see at least, what do we get? Moving on up in the world, we got a Dunkin' Donuts, an Applebee's, another gas station, Timmy's, and another gas station, Tops Barbecue. Moving on up in the world. So we've got that going for us. And then we're going to develop some of these blocks that have been lagging a bit. So we've got our grid pattern here. Again, let's remember what this was. So right here, we're looking at, it's 11 units. And this distance here, it's 16. I think we're just going to go 8. Actually, we will go up 11 like we did before. We'll cut this off here. We won't zone in between. We'll leave a degree of separation in between the factory and the neighborhood, and we can landscape that. That is something that I could absolutely see happening. Now, the length of these, I believe, was 15, 17 there. Interesting. That's because we've deviated from our grid a bit. So what we're going to do is look at this road. This road's not going to stick. The church is going to need to decide how they want to handle that, but we will at least come close and pull this over here. And then over here, we're not going to have that separation. We'll just continue our grid up and we'll stop it right there. We'll have a landscape buffer in between these homes. Again, the St. Mary's Church and Cemetery site, we are going to let them decide what they want to do with that property. It's interesting. I feel like I'm not snapping and I can't figure out why. But you can kind of see I'm not snapping. It's making everything just a little bit more challenging. I'll have to work through that. I've had this happen a couple of other times, but as a result, as I'm going through here, it's just nothing's connecting the first time. If you have any ideas about that, let me know, because I certainly don't want that to be something that inhibits the build. So the other thing is, we're not going to develop here, so I'm not going to be overly concerned about this. I know that we missed some lights over here. I'll take care of those after I get this zoned. We are just going to, whoop. We'll have a bit of commercial right here. Maybe a node of commercial activity. We'll leave that there. And this will serve both the factory and the residential in this area. And there we go. We've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish blocks of residential. That is a really big benefit to the city at this point because we just need it so desperately. And over here, we could add another home on. We do have that separation. I might maintain that for the time being. We should have some landscaping underneath there. Why don't we take care of that? Okay, so that is much better there. And the very last thing that we're going to do is steal some more forest. And the whole purpose for this is we're going to use this in between here. So this is still a very rural place where you would see these little outcrops of forest every now and then. Where it's just dense landscaping, unplanned, just got left behind. There we go. We're going to add a bit here by Quick Trip as well. And then I want to go all the way along the highway and do something very similar. Now by Quick Trip, we're going to turn that because they're going to be very concerned about the vision of their sign, the ability to see it. So they're not going to let that fly. And they're going to get that forest cut down as soon as you can, basically. Oh, that just... And the reason why I love doing it this way is you can just really make it look absolutely spectacular. I add it along both sides of the road and then spread it out even a bit from there. There we go. I just love the look of the trees. And with that, I think it feels so much better to have that thick foliage through here. And now we've got this hole here where, we're going to need to really give some thought to what the school and church, or what the church wants to do with this. We've also got some land back here to develop. And now we enter the city. You enter, and you get to go to the double advanced auto parts, and in and out. 2 Arby's next to each other. Smoothie King, beautiful. But you get a nice variety of fast food. I guess that's what more could you ask? I'm sure that would be the pride and talk of the town. That's one of those things. So we're moving in a good direction, though. I think that we've done a lot of interesting things here. I hope that you've enjoyed this build. This build today. We do need to look at one more thing. Let's admire this sign once more and have a brief city tour. And as the usual, I left prop anarchy on, and I probably made a bunch of trees clip through in inappropriate places. I didn't. I also didn't put those lights in that I said I was going to. So let's do that real quick before we are done. Now that I think about it, we already have the perfect asset. I was getting very concerned about searching for the right asset. There's no need. We've got one right here. We will take this bad boy tonight. Go, and let's again throw our prop anarchy on. So we've got some lights in here. It's not enough. With any lights, you'd want to have enough that if you were walking through the lot, you'd have safe lighting everywhere. So we're going to go through here and just add some more lights. That one's no good. There we go. That's better. What you probably see happen here is I'm trying to get away with the absolute minimum amount. So this, I would say, is unacceptable. This too, because in between those 3 lights, there's an area where it's just not well lit enough. So I'd go back in and I'd say, you got to do a little bit better than that. And we get something like this. And that would be sufficient. And thankfully, we can just go through, select those, copy. Oh yeah, now we're going in a good direction. Probably want to move that one, remove that one that's in there. That was generated with the lot. That is a trickier process, and if we do that, it's not going to be right now. So I'm wondering if that's a node actually that I could just... Oh, actually, yeah, it's a node in there. So what we're going to do is remove that node, and that should resolve this issue. So go in the unified UI. I can't. Interesting. I am very confused. We will deal with that in the next one. Oh, well, at least it's night, and we can admire the fire in the evening. Look at that. It kind of matches the sunset. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. And I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.